Shalom, Mishpacha. I want to encourage you today, and I want you to hold your heads up high, because it's very important to understand that we will face difficulties in this life, but we will overcome the difficulties as well. It's not just, we will face a difficulty and we'll never get out. We'll face difficulties, we'll have challenges, but we will get out of the challenges too. So this idea that you have to, wait till you die, and then you'll get into heaven and then you get everything you want, that is absolutely a false idea. That is not true. We will get everything in this life. We will get all our desires in this life. And when you go to the next life, then God will reward you for your faithfulness in the next life. Now, He may choose to send you back to give you another chance, which we call reincarnation. And we don't have a number in reincarnation like the Hindu people do, where they say, well, you're going to be reincarnated 7 times, you might become a brick, you might become an ant, you might become an animal. There is no such belief in Torah that we will come back as ants, bricks, animals. Okay? We will come back as human beings, and that is dependent upon God to send us back. If He so feels that we need to go back, then He will send us back. And if He doesn't feel, then He will keep us there. But the thing is that your rewards are with you. Your rewards are here in this life, and you're going to get more rewards after this life as well. In the book of Isaiah chapter 41 verse 10 it says, so do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your Elohim. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. It's very important to understand that we have been instructed in the 10 Commandments very, very carefully that we are not to follow other gods. We have been told that. We've been told that so many times. Even in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 14, we are told, do not follow other powers. Or in your other translations, this is from the Hidden Truths of Brit Scrolls, or in your other translations, do not follow other gods, the gods of the people around you. Now, let me ask you a simple question, and I don't want to name names. If anybody just turns around and says, I've checked, the God of maybe the Hindus, maybe, possibly some other people, and let's just even go back even further. Somebody might say to you, I have seen the God of the Canaanites, whatever they worshipped. They worshipped all sorts of odd things. Like the Philistines, they worshipped a statue that was made of, half fish and half human body, dargon. So, if we say, dargon, he was a great god, and, he predated the sayings of Moses, and let's go back and follow him. You see, it's very easy to fall into that trap. Whilst you and I know there is no such thing as Dargon being the great power, the great God, and compare him like the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and how can we say that? How can we say that Dargon is going to be a greater God, or just because the Philistines happened to capture the judge and the prophet? If you remember, Samson, he was a judge and a prophet as well. They captured him, they tortured him, they took his eyes out, and he destroyed their temple when he regained his strength, he destroyed their temple, but within it he died as well. So my point is this, that can we now use that example and say Dargon was more powerful, and therefore maybe we should follow Dargon? You see, that is what some people postulate today, and I want to point out that this is not the case. I don't care if it's Dargon, I don't care if it's Ra, the god of Egypt, I don't care if it's Ra's daughter, Ma'at. I don't care if it's the other daughter, and I don't care if it's Ra's son. I don't care who it is. And I don't care if it's Asherah, and I do not care if it's Tammuz, or I don't care if it's some other demigod out there that that existed in the ancient times, because the Torah was in the Garden of Eden. From the Garden of Eden, we are clearly told that Enoch walked after God. Means that he walked in the Torah. In fact, in the book of Enoch, we are told that Enoch wrote many books. He taught many kings in Africa. So where do you think that the education that the kings of Egypt, those black kings you see in movies, you see Nubian kings, they were all, Caribbean looking, the Nubian kings, and they were from the Cushite clans. Cush was a black, a man of black skin color, and he was a son of Noah. And if you look that, they built great civilizations, pyramids and the likes. Where did that knowledge come from? That knowledge, by the way, did not come from Ma'at. Ma'at doesn't predate. Ma'at, the daughter of Ra, does not go back to that period. In fact, in that period, when they were building those pyramids, we find that Enoch, one of the righteous sons of God, he lived, he predated them, and he taught the Egyptians. It is even postulated that one of the big pyramids in Egypt was built by Enoch. It's even postulated that as well. See, it depends what you're looking for. It depends what you want to hear. And remember how many times that I have told you that it is not what you know, it is who do you listen to. If you listen to the wrong man, and you absorb the wrong information, you are going to fall. Then don't complain afterwards that you fell because you listened to the wrong man. We clearly have here's the problem. People turn around and say things like the facts. Oh, these are the facts. I've only one thing for those that say the facts. I can turn and change the facts. You give me a fact and I'll change it. I'll change it in 2 seconds. So your fact will no longer be a fact. You tell me what is a fact and I will change it for you. And if I change your fact, then a fact is not a fact. But I cannot change your history. I can change your fact, but I can't change your history. What is your history? What is our history? Our history stems from our forefathers, from our foremothers, and from our forefathers, which are mentioned numerous times. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We're mentioned by our matriarchs as well. Sarah, one of our matriarchs. Rachel, one of our matriarchs. Leah, one of our matriarchs. We're mentioned by our matriarchs as well. So that history of traveling from Israel, Jacob's family traveling from Israel to Egypt when the famine was affecting Israel, and Jacob was sending his sons to collect, to buy food, and then eventually Joseph called him to Egypt and he went and stayed in Egypt. And so what do we call that? In other words, that is a history. Then eventually over a period of years, our people, minus the Kohanim, the people became slaves. The Kohanim did not become slaves. The priesthood was never in slavery. The priesthood were free to move around, so the Kohanim were not slaves, but the others became slaves because they listened to the pharaohs. And then what happened is that God sent Moses. Moses freed our people through God's instructions with Aaron, and then brought them out. And then we circled around the desert 40 years. We got rid of the miscreants. And then we entered the land with those that God considered to be righteous and right. Clear example. 40 years they wandered in the desert. They're circling around Saudi Arabia for 40 years. And then eventually they enter the land. The point that I'm trying to make, can you, can a third person change that history and say, no, you never came out of Egypt, no, you're not the sons of Abraham? And I say that, yes, we are. Some of you may not have that history. Some of you may not know your lineage past the state that you live in, the U.S., because perhaps your forefathers were brought from Africa at one time in slave ships. But that does not change the fact. It does not change the fact, or whether you came from Europe, it does not change the fact that you are a son of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It doesn't change it. So therefore, my question is very simple. We cannot remove that history. That history will always be. I don't care who comes along and tries to brainwash you and say, oh, no, you're not a Hebrew. Oh, we can't find a Hebrew in any evidence. That is absolutely BS. There is no such thing as not finding history. Number one, the Ebla tablets. Abraham is mentioned in the Ebla tablets. If you want to know who Abraham was, go and find the Ebla tablets and look at them. Number two, we still have the Hebrews mentioned with pictures on Egyptian pyramids. Number three, we have artifacts, geological records in Israel that mention contracts that were exchanged in Israel during King Solomon's time. Number four, in Afghanistan, we have records in the Hebrew language and the Aramaic language mentioning Hebrew people who were in Afghanistan. I can name you 2 countries that our people have established in this present world. But you cannot name me a single country that any of these false gods have so-called false gods out there have actually made. And I'm talking about the false gods that existed prior to even Abraham's birth. I'm going back to era of 2600, 2800 BCE. Abraham lived during 2200 BCE. So you go back even 400 years before Abraham. 2600 BC. That's the arena of Ma'at, the goddess, the daughter of Ra. Okay, so let's go to that era. Show me one kingdom, show me one country that Ma'at made in our present world, that I can say, oh yeah, Ma'at's laws were so good, so great, that there is actually a country that Ma'at's followers created. And you know what? You will find none. Zero. Nada. But I can name you at least 2 countries. At least 2 countries that still exist today that were created by the descendants of Israel. And I'm not talking about a third man coming and building it. No. The descendants of Israel built 2 countries. And they exist today. And I have evidence. You got to be an idiot. You got to be so foolish to believe that there is no evidence for the Hebrews, because I can take you to Saudi Arabia and I can show you the mountain of God over there. I can take you to Egypt and I can show you evidence of the Hebrews over there. I can take you to India and I can show you evidence of the Hebrews there that came to India 1,000 years ago. I can take you to America and I can show you the 10 Commandments stele that exists in America that was placed there in 800 BCE during the time of the reign of King Solomon's time. King David and King Solomon's time period. How did he get to America? 800 BCE, because apparently America was created around about 250 years ago. These are questions that no one can answer. These are concrete questions with concrete answers. You have to be just close your eyes and be blind I don't even think even blind person will, agree with, there is no evidence for Hebrews. And even a blind person wouldn't agree with that. Because a blind person can go to a library and read Braille, and he can read the history of our people. He doesn't need to look at the pictures, he can still read in his, in the language that they're able to read, the print. So, this is my point. Just because the next person comes along, or the next religion comes along, or the next prophet comes along, or whatever the next God comes along, it doesn't mean now, we will leave the Elohim, the God that we have been instructed to worship. God said that your Torah teachers, this is why God said that your Torah teachers are the Kohanim. Did God ever say that your Torah teachers are the followers of Mat? Did he say the followers of Ra are your teachers? Did he ever write down that your teachers are from Christianity? The pastors. Tell me. Did he say that? Then if he didn't say that, then why did God put in the Torah that your teachers are the sons of Aaron? Why? It is the reason why is because the sons of Aaron are resolute. They will never veer left and right and say, I think I should follow Mat. I think I should follow Ra. I think I should follow Cleopatra maybe. Maybe I should follow Santa Claus. Ma'at is a figment of people's imagination, just like Santa Claus. She is a myth, a legend. And anybody can make a myth and a legend into a goddess or a god. That's the plain truth at the end of the day. Let's face the real history. I don't care about your facts, because your facts are nothing but pile of poo. That's all they are, pile of poo, by the way. They're not. I don't call them facts. That's not a history. That's not something that we follow. This is why we have a record of the writings. We were given a record of the writings twice. The Torah, did you know that Moses went up twice? And Moses wrote the Torah. And there's a dispute about whether he wrote the last part of the book of Deuteronomy. It doesn't matter, because even an idiot who didn't go to school will tell you that the last part of the last chapter of the Torah was written by who else but Joshua, under Joshua's authority. Because, Moses passed on. So, Moses didn't have to write the last chapter. It's very easy to collate that. But however, to just rubbish something that we have and say, no, there's, there is problem. There is no problem. We have manuscripts that date back. We have manuscripts that date back to 1200 BCE. We have manuscripts, we have scrolls in Israel present in their libraries today that you can even go and date back before the birth of Jesus of Nazareth, before even the birth of Jesus of Nazareth. So the question again comes to what tickles your ear? Does a follower of Ma'at tickle your ears? Then sure, you're going to follow him. You're not going to care whether you have evidence for 2,200 years of our known history, or at least maybe 4,000 years of our known history. You're not going to care about that, are you? If somebody else comes along to you and you think that he gives you the benefit of blessings, I'd like to ask you the question: if you followed Torah for 15 years and you've been blessed by the Torah for 15 years, are you going to turn around to me and now tell me that Ma'at blessed you? No, you can't do that. That right would be it's like saying that Santa Claus blessed me, but God didn't, because I believe Santa Claus exists, because my neighbor told me so, or the neighbor's son told me. But this is the point. The point is that it's very easy to be led astray by the so-called truth bearers. But they're not truth bearers. They're just false. They're just holding histories that they don't really have no proper accountability for. So this is why I say to you, hold fast to your faith. I give more credence to Christians. I give them more credence. You know why? Because, Christians, they believe in different denominations. They may have their, 38,000 denominations. But they still say, they still believe in Jesus one way or the other. Whether they believe he is just a man, just a prophet, or God or man or everything together, it doesn't matter, but they still hold to a person's belief. You will not find Christians, right, who will just, one day be uppity and up and go and say, oh, we believe that Santa Claus existed, and we're not going to follow Santa Claus. Or we believe that Buddha existed 500 years prior to Jesus, we're going to follow Buddha instead. You don't find that. So, therefore, you got to give some credence, you got to give some kudos to those people and say, you know what, it's good that you do. It's good. And I always, I always give credence to Muslims. Muslims hold fast to their faith, and Baruch Hashem, wonderful, great, because they have 90% of the Torah, and they hold fast. They don't go left and they don't go right, and I think that is wonderful. That's great. I can call them a brother, because at least 90% of my Torah, that they have. They don't have the 100%, they have the 90%. And they say, it's a holy book, and we believe it's so. And I said, thank you very much. I'm with you, brother, on that. So, this is my point. But if a follower of Ra is going to come to me and tell me, oh, Ra wrote 42 laws, what do you mean Ra wrote 42 laws? Your Ra is a myth. Ra did not write no 42 laws. So I don't follow him after myths. And God didn't tell me he has a daughter called or Ma'at's 42 laws. The God that I serve, he didn't tell me that I have a daughter called Ma'at and she has 42 laws, follow after her. So I'm not going to follow after her. I'm not a buffoon like some other people. I'm not an idiot. I spent 24 years in this ministry. 24 years of my life I gave. 10 years of my life, blood and sweat and money and time I gave to translating the holy books into the English language. And I'm not going to have nobody come to me and tell me that I need to go and look at Ma'at, history. I'm just being respectful. I'm being very respectful, and I hold composure. I hold my composure, and I hold my peace and my shalom. Because I don't need to go where I don't want to go. I have a clear path in front of me. And, I respect people who want to follow other gods and goddesses. I respect them for whatever they want to do. But me, I will only follow after what my forefathers believed and put their faith in. That's the only power that I'm going to ever follow. I'm not going to follow nothing else. 24 years ago, I was told by God himself that turn to the Torah. So do you think I'm going to turn somewhere else? Absolutely not. I was raised and I was called by God. You won't find me, running for some other, after some other man-made legend. I do not do that. I will never do that. That's how strong I am in my belief, in my faith. I gave up my family. I gave up my home. I gave up my expensive cars, not to follow after some stupid little, white-feathered woman who is just a myth and a legend. I didn't do it for that. I did it for Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's power, the God they served. That's who I did it for. And that's the one I will always follow. People ask the question. People often ask the question, and let me tell you today, publicly, let me answer that question for you. Do you still believe in the Messiah? What do you mean, do I still believe in the Messiah? Well, if your Messiah hasn't returned for 2,000 years, then let's wait. I'm willing to give you time to prove your Messiah. If you believe that Jesus is the Messiah, and I don't need to make a statement because I wasn't born in a church. I wasn't born in Christianity. I'm waiting just as you are waiting to prove your truth. And I'm waiting, and I'm already proving my truth that the Torah existed prior to Jesus' birth. The Torah was there. I don't need to prove the Torah. Many nations are built on these laws of the Torah. England, United States of America, Europe. Many countries in Europe are built on the foundation of the Torah. So I don't need to prove it, that whether the Torah is truth or not. But as for Jesus, who, came 2,000 years ago, first of all, Jesus did not call himself some kind of a being from above. Jesus said he's a rabbi. If you go by the teachings in the New Testament, Jesus called himself a rabbi. Today, most of you Christians ignorantly don't accept the term rabbi, because you are such idiots that you don't even know that rabbi means a teacher. So when somebody calls themselves a rabbi, you're ignorantly saying that you shouldn't call yourself a rabbi when your own so-called master called himself a rabbi. So if I call myself a rabbi, am I any less than Jesus? No, I actually gave more life than Jesus did. Okay? I gave more life, more power, more sweat and more blood. Jesus only served 3 years. I served 24 years for God. How many times more than Jesus? 10 times more than, at least if you multiply 3 years and you times it by 8, 24 years, 8 times more than Jesus. I can claim authority 8 times more than Jesus. I'm a Kohen. A Kohen has much more authority than any Messiah out there. Without me, there is no king. Okay? There is going to be no king going to come and say, I'm a king because I have to anoint him. I am a Kohen. A Kohen has to anoint the king. Without a Kohen, there is no king. And a Kohen does not need the Messiah. The Messiah needs the Kohen. So who's going to be superior? Go and learn, Christians. Go and learn. What is a Kohen? You will know nothing about our Torah. And you come and place these questions. Oh, do you still believe in the Messiah? I believe there will be a Messiah. I believe there will be a Messiah in Israel who will be called the King of Israel. Yes, I believe in the Messiah to be the King of Israel. And I believe he will serve under the Torah. And who will write the Torah? Not your Messiah. I will write the Torah. My descendants will write the Torah. We will write the Torah. We, the Kohanim, who are the guardians of the Torah, we will write it. So who do you need to establish a Messiah? Now go and answer that question. Then you'll get my answer that I've already given you. Whether I believe in the Messiah or don't believe in the Messiah. Without me, there is no Messiah. So without my descendants in the past, who established kings? King David, his son King Solomon, later kings, King Hezekiah. We established those kings. King David had a priest that he listened to. King Solomon had a priest that he listened to. And they had kept Torahs. They wrote 3 copies of the Torahs for the king. 1 the king kept, 2 we kept. And whenever the king needed advice, he came to the priest to give me advice. So who needs who? Do we need a king or does the king need us? That's how important we are. The Kohens don't need no one. We have God. And God calls us his son. You know what God said for us? He said, I will not give you land. You have no inheritance in Israel, but I am your inheritance. Do you think I'm going to leave that inheritance? That is God? Absolutely not. Never going to leave that inheritance. So just as much as God called me his son, I called him my God. And I serve him today, yesterday, and forever. It will never change. Until he reestablishes us back into our land of our forefathers, I will always call him king. First, the true king of Israel, first and foremost, is Elohim, God himself. After him, there will be a man that will become a king. What does Messiah mean? Messiah means a king. and that king is yet to come. And when that king comes, it won't be a question of, was he seen or was he not seen? Everybody will know him. It will be in every newspaper of the earth, satellite TV, everybody, media, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, everybody will know that the Messiah of Israel is here. But that is not yet. That time is yet future. And we await that time. If I'm not around, my descendants will be around. And they will see that king. And they will serve him. And those that have gone astray, those that left before that king arrived, in their lifetimes, well, they'll be the sons of perdition who are lost. And sadly, we can't do nothing about that. And we don't need to, because we hold fast and we continue to march on. And nothing deters us. And nothing will. So hold fast to your faith, because you've already been given your redemption. You don't need to wait for no redemption. You already have it. You have the Torah as a document that says that you've been redeemed. You've been redeemed by the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You don't need to wait for any further redemption. There is no second redemption. One is enough. Just hold fast to the Torah. Hold fast to the laws. And you will be blessed tremendously in this life and the one to come. Baruch Hashem. Have a wonderful, wonderful week ahead. And may the force of the Elohim of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Jacob be with you forever and ever. Amen ve amen.